A nation mourns as tragedy strikes near the nation's capital. The skies over Washington, D.C. were ripped apart on the night of January 29, 2025, as tragedy struck just 3 miles south of the White House. An American Airlines CRJ-701, operating as Flight 5342, collided with a U.S. Army UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter. The collision occurred over the Potomac River as the jetliner prepared for landing at Ronald Reagan National Airport. The impact sent shockwaves through the nation's capital and beyond, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable devastation. Wreckage from both aircraft plunged into the icy waters of the Potomac, scattering debris over a wide area. Rescue crews and investigators rushed to the scene, but hope quickly faded as the true extent of the disaster became clear. All 64 souls aboard the American Airlines jet, including 60 passengers and 4 crew members, perished in the crash. The helicopter, carrying 3 U.S. Army soldiers on a training exercise, also went down, claiming the lives of all those on board. The nation watched in horror as details of the tragedy unfolded. Seconds to impact, unraveling the timeline of a disaster. In the aftermath of any aviation accident, the moments leading up to the crash become the subject of intense scrutiny. The National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, immediately launched an investigation, working tirelessly to piece together the events that led to the deadly collision over the Potomac. Preliminary findings revealed a series of communications between air traffic control and the pilots of both aircraft. Minutes before the crash, Flight 5342 was cleared to land on a shorter runway at DCA. Less than 30 seconds before impact, the air traffic controller contacted the helicopter, inquiring if the pilots had the approaching jetliner in sight. The controller then instructed the helicopter to pass behind the CRJ. However, there was no response from the helicopter. The jetliner's transponder ceased transmitting data just 2,400 feet short of the runway. Metal birds on a collision course, the aircraft involved. The 2 aircraft involved in the tragedy represented vastly different aspects of American aviation. The American Airlines CRJ-701, a twin-engine regional jet, was a workhorse of the domestic airline industry. Manufactured in 2004, the aircraft was designed to carry up to 70 passengers and was a familiar sight at airports across the country. In stark contrast, the U.S. Army UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter was a symbol of military might and versatility. Known for its agility and ruggedness, the Black Hawk is a multi-mission aircraft used for troop transport, medical evacuations, and combat operations. On that fateful night, these 2 aircraft, operating in the same airspace but with vastly different missions, were brought together in a catastrophic collision. The investigation into the crash would delve into the technical specifications and operational histories of both aircraft. Section 4. Searching for Answers. The investigation and its findings. The investigation into the crash of American Airlines Flight 5342 and the U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter quickly became one of the most high-profile aviation accident investigations in recent memory. The NTSB, the lead agency responsible for investigating civil aviation accidents, deployed a team of experts to the crash site. Divers worked tirelessly to recover wreckage from the depths of the Potomac River, including the crucial flight data recorders and cockpit voice recorders from both aircraft. These black boxes, designed to withstand the forces of a crash, held vital clues to understanding the final moments of both flights. Investigators also focused on air traffic control procedures and communications. One key area of interest was the fact that a single air traffic controller was responsible for both helicopter and fixed-wing traffic at the time of the crash. As the investigation progressed, the NTSB remained tight-lipped about potential causes of the crash. Section 5. Voices of Grief and Accountability. Reactions to the tragedy. The collision sent shockwaves through the nation and beyond, prompting an outpouring of grief and condolences. President Trump addressed the nation, expressing his sorrow for the victims and their families. However, his remarks quickly took a controversial turn, as he placed blame on the helicopter pilots without providing evidence and baselessly claimed that diversity initiatives had undermined air safety. Transportation Secretary Duffy and Army Secretary-nominee Driscoll offered more measured responses, expressing their condolences while acknowledging that the crash appeared avoidable. Secretary Duffy emphasized the expectation of safe air travel, and vowed to find answers for the families of the victims and the public. The tragedy also sparked a political firestorm, with President Trump using the incident to further his agenda of rolling back diversity and inclusion policies. Amidst the political posturing and finger-pointing, the families of the victims were left to grapple with their unimaginable loss. Section 6. Lives lost, dreams shattered, remembering the victims. As the nation mourned the loss of 67 lives in the tragic collision, the personal stories of the victims slowly began to emerge. Among those on board American Airlines Flight 5342 were families returning home after vacations, business travelers on their way to meetings, and young people chasing their dreams. One group of victims stood out for their heartbreaking story. Members of the Skating Club of Boston, including teenage figure skating prodigies Jenna Han and Spencer Lane, were on their way back from the U.S. Figure Skating Championships. Accompanying them were their mothers and renowned coaches, Evgenia Shishkova and Vadim Naumov. The skating world was devastated by the loss of such promising young athletes and their mentors. Each life lost in the crash represented a unique and irreplaceable individual, leaving behind a void in the lives of their loved ones. Section 7. Echoes of the Past, DCA, and the Shadow of Previous Incidents. The tragic collision over the Potomac was not the first aviation accident to cast a shadow over Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. DCA, known for its proximity to downtown Washington and its challenging approach over the Potomac River, has had its share of close calls and incidents over the years. In May 2025, just months before the fatal crash, two separate incidents involving American Airlines planes on the runway at DCA raised concerns about safety procedures and potential near misses. While these incidents did not result in any injuries, they highlighted the inherent risks associated with operating in a busy and complex airspace like DCA. The most infamous incident in DCA's history occurred in 1982 when an Air Florida flight crashed into the 14th Street Bridge shortly after takeoff during a snowstorm. The 2025 collision served as a stark reminder of the ever-present risks associated with air travel, even in an age of advanced technology and rigorous safety protocols.